I would say one of the very first reasons why I started doing research on my students and on their learning is because of the rewards that I saw students were achieving as a result of being in placements outside of the classroom, in internships, in volunteer placements, in service learning placements. And, it's easy to tell anecdotal stories about how these opportunities benefited students and how we witnessed students who excelled as a result of these initial experiences. But I started to do the research to demonstrate in a much more coherent, rigorous way what the benefits were to students, how students were learning differently, and how these experiences helped shape their sort of future learning experiences. So I've done a number of different studies related to the way students learn as a result of experience in internships and service learning. And one of them was an empirical study looking at student reflections, so reflective journals that students submitted, and I collected their reflections over a period of 3 years in a voluntary process, and then I did an analysis of the content, a content analysis essentially, of the reflections, and trying to look for themes and patterns and ideas that kept repeating themselves. And that was the way that I did research looking at how students gain discipline-based learning as a result of service learning. I wanted to learn about the ways in which different forms of learning, particularly experiential learning, internships, service learning, placements, volunteer work, how those impacted student learning based on both discipline-based learning, right? A lot of education-based research, pedagogy research is focused on the discipline of education. I teach in urban studies. I wanted to know how this learning was relevant to urban studies in particular. So I've had a number of different research questions over the years. The first question was, how do students learn about their own discipline by exposing themselves to experiences out in the community, out in the city, in ways that they can connect and reflect based on the theory we discuss in class and the experience of participating in a sort of actual activity, volunteering in a food bank, at a shelter, conducting a survey, any number, range of activities. How does that influence and inform what they know about the discipline? So that was the first question. The second question I've looked at was, how do we understand relationships between the university and their community partners and the role that students play within those relationships? So we often talk about the role of the university in the community, but we need to add the student in there too. And the third one is, and this kind of, this research question stemmed from my first research question looking at discipline-based learning, was the question of grades and grade achievement, and how is grade achievement affected as a result of participation in a service learning experience. I also, though, did a study more recently, which is accepted but not yet published, which looks at student grades and student grade achievement as a result of participating in service learning. And for that research, I had a work-study student through the university's work-study program that helped conduct the research and that helped with the data analysis. So on two of the SoTL research studies that I've done, I've received research ethics. And I think that the most important and key thing about the research ethics is and people don't necessarily anticipate this when they're starting out on it, but it actually really, really helps you develop and focus your research question. And then once you start your work, you already have a roadmap laid out for you. I would say be creative, think innovatively about the ways in which what you're already doing can benefit others, other learners, other educators, other researchers, how we might conceive of education in different ways, in different forms, as a result of studying the ways in which we teach and the benefits and the outcomes of that teaching on the student population. I started the research because of what I saw happening in the teaching, what I saw happening in terms of the students, and how I saw that just sort of this sense of awe and inspiration as a result of what they experienced. And so by doing the research and by collecting this information and thinking about it in a analytical way and thinking through theoretically how student experience connects with existing literature on internships, I've been able to both tell students about the value of this type of learning experience and to share with them some stories about impact that other students that have come before them have had in terms of their own learning and in terms of their own sort of progression through both undergraduate and now through graduate degrees and PhDs. In terms of how I teach, so I continue to emphasize also the role of service learning and of internships. And I just have an even, I suspected that it made a difference, but now I know that it makes a difference. And so that influences the way I will approach organizing a course or thinking through a newer, innovative way of structuring something by including forms of experience that I know benefit the students.